I've been, helping coaching accountants for the last 6 years now. My Facebook group has about 1,600 accountants in it now. And I ask them a question before they join the group. What is your number one challenge? And by far and away, 90% of replies will be getting new clients, finding clients, winning business, practice growth. So that is still the number one challenge for most firm owners. And it's because we're not taught how to market when we do our accountancy training. So most accountants, they try and be all things to all people. Yeah. And you can't say, well, I'm different because of X, Y, and Z. They can't see you as different. You do tax returns, you do accounts, you do bookkeeping, you do VAT, so does the accountant down the road. What makes you different? That's what you've got to work on. Get that differentiating factor nailed, and then you'll be able to attract better quality clients paying you higher price. It's like a pendulum. I always say the two big problems, if you've got lots of clients coming in, you're going to have to hire people, right? And if you've got people with capacity, you're going to have to go and get clients. It's always going to be one of those two. And that's the problem. So we have, although we've got our clients coming in, the hurdle is the capacity. Like, we can't find good people to be able to then take on board the new clients that are coming in. Got me that, wow, this is fascinating. And that's an area where I've gone real deep, that I've, devoured all the marketing books and absorbed and consumed the content of the best minds on the planet when it comes to marketing, because ultimately that is the skill which provides you the biggest leverage, because marketing is the art of getting customers.
Welcome back to Evolve and Inspire, the podcast where we sit down with remarkable individuals who've turned challenges into triumphs. I'm your host, Reza, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce you to someone whose story is a masterclass in transformation. When I started this podcast, my mission was simple: to share stories that prove your background doesn't define your future. Stories that show how resilience, determination, and the courage to ask for help can transform adversity into extraordinary achievement. Today's guest is Reza Huda, a chartered accountant, a chartered tax advisor, and one of the most respected business coaches for accountants in the industry. But here's what makes his story so powerful. Back in 2008, when Reza started his accounting practice, he was struggling, overworked, stressed out, chasing clients for invoices of just £500 to £1,000, and on the brink of going out of business. Fast forward to today, and Reza has built a near £1 million accounting firm that runs largely without him, working less than 10 hours a week. He's won single fees of over £135,000, paid in advance. He's authored multiple books, including The Four Pillars, which over 1,500 firm owners worldwide now use as their blueprint for success. He hosts the Profitable Accounting podcast, leads a thriving community of over 1,200 accountants, and has helped countless practice owners transform their business from glorified jobs into profitable, freedom-giving enterprises. But what I find most inspiring about Reza's journey is his honesty about the struggle, about nearly losing everything, about discovering business coaching in 2014 and having the humility to admit he needed help, and about the 24-month transformation that followed when he implemented what he learned about pricing, sales, marketing, culture, and system. Today, Reza dedicates his time to helping accountants avoid the mistakes he made and to take a shortcut to the success he fought so hard to achieve. Reza, welcome to Evolve and Inspire. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Zeph, for having me. Wow, what an introduction. You've clearly done your research.
Take me back all the way to the beginning of you growing up. Where did you grow up? How were you in school?
Okay. Well, we're going back that far. So I grew up in a town called Peterborough, not very far from Birmingham. So I remember, because I went to university in Birmingham, but we'll come on to that. So I grew up in Peterborough, fairly...
Passport office, that's what we know
Passport
it for.
office, yes, indeed. A lot of friends when I grew up worked at the passport office and family members. So yeah, Peterborough was where I grew up. That's where I did my primary, secondary education. Very humble kind of beginnings. My parents were both kind of first generation migrants. We had an end of terrace house. I'm the eldest of 5 siblings. And for me, as a child, I was fairly quiet. I think I was bullied a little bit at school. I was a bit, overweight. And I was quite academic because I remember my mum giving me lots of workbooks to do. So I enjoyed maths. It's quite academic early on. But then secondary school, as you get into teenage years and you get into that 14, 15-year-old zone, then things start to go a bit awry. And although I was quite academically good, then suddenly started to peter out. GCSEs were kind of average. Started A-levels. I took maths, business and French. And again, didn't do that great in them. I therefore couldn't apply to universities I actually wanted to go to study the subjects I wanted. I wanted to study business because I was interested in business. And actually going back before that, I guess I was always interested in business. I wanted to always set up a business. I didn't know what it was. But from a young age, I was that kid who was kind of buying and selling stuff. So, buying Hubba Bubbas from the newsagent on the way to school and then selling them at school to my friends. I continued that in university, buying and selling mobile phones, that sort of thing, kind of spotting any opportunities to make a quick buck. So university offers came. I rejected them all because it's all based on predicted grades. My predicted grades weren't great. And I did a bit of research and realized that there was this course at Aston Uni called International Business and Finance, which was a course that appealed to me, that I wanted to do, because I wanted to do something with business, but then it wouldn't really be international if it didn't involve a language. So in my mind, I picked a language. I like French. Yeah. So international business and French. I rejected all the offers and I banked on getting through to Aston in clearing. And I had a look at the year before, back in the day, it was the papers, right? You had the Sunday Times, going through the papers. And that was a course that was available the year prior. So I kind of banked and prayed that it would be available in the year. And lo and behold, it was. So I got a place in Aston to study international business and French, 4-year degree. Started that, again, did a bit of wheeling and dealing at university, spent the third year in France. So went to Marseille, spent a year there, fantastic, one of the best years of my life, had a great time. Got to enjoy the sand and halal food that Marseille had to offer. And then that really helped me build my French. And then final year comes and I guess that was my pivotal moment where it was a fork in the road. I was applying for any job, so from your accountancy jobs to your management programs to anything that kind of took my fancy in the milk round, the big book that we used to get. And I had 2 job offers. So going into accountancy was not intentional. It was one of many other things that I applied for. And I had 2 offers. I had one from PwC and I had one from Renault, the car company, French car company. Yeah. So going down the Renault route would have meant I continued with my French. I could have worked in Paris and gone down the kind of the graduate management program and gone up the ladder at Renault. All the other options with PwC, join them, big brand, low salary, but then you get your accountancy training, you study for your chartered accountancy qualification. And I spoke to a few people, my parents, etc. They suggested, they advised, go for the chartered accountancy qualification, because then it was still in study mode. Thought fair enough, I'll do that, and then the world's your oyster. Once you've got that, then you could go and do anything else. And for me, it was all about getting into business at some point. Yeah.
Did your the course that you did it offer you any exemptions or anything like that, or were you starting fresh?
Starting from scratch, like everybody else. Yeah. So when I joined PwC, there were others in my peer group that had geography degrees or history degrees or art degrees. Like it didn't matter. You all came in the same boat and studied for the same exams.
When you were in secondary school or even university, did you think you're ever going to be an accountant? Or if anyone ever asked you what you were going to do, what was your response?
Yeah, I didn't really... I never thought I'd be an accountant. I wanted to do something in business, but that brainwave of an idea never came to me. So it was I guess my thinking at the time was, okay, well, what kind of stepping stone do I need to take in order to get me to where I want to get to? And studying business, fine, that was one, although what they teach you at university is like nothing compared to what actually involves running a business. So that I did, and then I think it was just because I was in study mode. I thought, fine, study mode, I'll do something where I'm still studying for now, because trying to do it later on in life will be much harder. So that was my thought process.
It's funny you say that about doing a degree in business, because I did AS levels and I did business studies, and the thing that always kind of I thought about is that there's someone here that's a teacher that's trying to teach business, but you're not doing business yourself.
Exactly.
So everything on theory, on paper, looks everything may work or whatever.
Absolutely.
But that's nowhere near how it is in the real world.
Not at all.
How was it at PwC? Did you enjoy it at PwC? Does the top 4 normally has this kind of stigma attached to it where they just make you work very hard, unsociable hours, and it's just a bit of a rat race?
I was quite fortunate because, and this was, again, it wasn't intentional, I kind of fell into it. I applied for, most people, they apply for audit. And the reason why is because they may make audit sound very sexy. They call it like advisory or assurance or something. So everybody applies. And that's where most of the spaces are. That's where most people start. I applied for tax. Now, tax when you're a graduate or undergrad sounds very boring. So no one really applies for tax. So I was applying. There was only like 8 spaces for tax, but there were at 40 for assurance. So I thought, let me apply for tax. It seems as if no one ever applies for tax. So I did, blindly, but I was so pleased that I did, because not only was it not as crazy hours as audit, because I realized that initially audit is a bit of a novelty where you get to travel and get expenses, all this kind of stuff. But before long, you're working 15, 16 hours a day, and all my colleagues hated it. Whereas in tax, it was quite cushy, 9 to 5, pretty chilled. But more than that, as I progressed, I was in the entrepreneur and private client tax department of PwC. So this is actually working with entrepreneurs, the same profile of client that I would then have later on down the line when I set up the practice. So it actually became interesting. Initially, I hated it. It was very boring, because when you're there in the first two years, you're basically doing very menial stuff. You're analyzing timesheets, you're doing billing, you're basically like drafting emails about when the client has to pay their tax liability. It's very dull, very dire. And what I remember doing is just having coffee breaks with a friend of mine to talk about business ideas, like what can we do? 3 years, when we reach our 3 years and we get our qualification, what we're going to do? What we're going to do? The plan was get the qualification and then bounce, do something, set up that business. So that was the thought process. But as I got the qualification, and as you start to get a bit more responsibility, you think, actually, there could be something in it here. And I was then given the opportunity to study CTA. I thought, okay, fine, whilst I'm at PwC and they're paying for it, I may as well. Might as well get them to pay for the CTA. And the CTA was really interesting, but also really valuable. And I found that the CTA has helped me a hell of a lot more, particularly when I started my practice, compared to the ACA. The ACA is like very high level, multinationals, international accounting standards, very dry. If you're going to be, working as a partner, advising multinational corporations, fair enough, it might be a bit useful. But for advising owner-managed businesses, probably 10, 15% of the syllabus is relevant, whereas CTA is highly relevant. And that's where most business owners, my eventual clients in the firm, get the most amount of value from. Because let's face it, that's what clients value, right? You save them money. That's what they really go to an accountant for. They don't really care about the books and the accounts. That's a necessary evil that has to get done. They want to know how you can save the money. And ultimately, that's where they get the bulk of the value from us.
So when did you leave PwC?
So I was there for 5.5 years. I did my ACA. I got my CTA done in about a year. And then I stayed for another year or so, got to manager. And it was 2008. So late 2007. Again, me and my friend called Imran, we're talking about what can we do. And it nearly got to the point where we were going to set up a shisha cafe.
I've been there, done that.
But then
you dodged the bullet. You dodged the bullet.
Thank God. What happened was the tobacco ban came in. So it scuppered that plan. Exactly. So then we thought, okay, fine. And then late 2007, I'm visiting my in-laws. They lived in near Southampton, Portsmouth way in Hampshire. I was in Birmingham. And my father was telling me, because he ran a small practice, which he'd run since the 80s, but he'd gone into other things. He'd gone into care homes, so he wasn't really looking to grow the practice. He got
into the real money with the least headache as well.
Absolutely. So it was just ticking along, and he was having conversations with potential purchasers to buy it out, because he just wanted to secure a future for his staff who'd been quite loyal to him. He had 2 or 3 staff, very loyal, but he wanted to get out because he didn't really want the aggro of the dealing with the practice anymore. And then I'm visiting him and I'm telling him I was going to do this, but it's fallen through. And then he told me about the potential practice that he was looking to sell. I thought about, why don't me and my business partner at PwC, my friend, buy in? And he said, okay, well, arrange for both of you to come down, and you can go to the office one day. You can meet the staff. We'll show you what's what, and then you can make an offer. So we did that. A friend of mine, my friend Imran, we went through everything at the office there. It was very traditional, very paper-based, very old school, as you can imagine, and a very old school accountancy practice to be, no website, everything paper. It was the day when my father-in-law used to he had a secretary who would print out the emails. He would read the email, and then he would write down the reply to the email, give her the handwritten piece of paper with his reply. She would type it up and send it. That kind of practice, right? So
And that was in 2008.
This was 2007, 2008. So then we said, okay, fine, yeah, let's buy in. We'll made an offer, and then that was all done. I got remortgaged my flat at the time. We agreed the deal. I handed in my notice, and then next thing you know, my friend pulls out. So he pulled out. So then I had to kind of go back and kind of agree some financing to see me through for his half. And as I'm handing in my notice, then a few weeks later, the world goes into financial meltdown.
Oh, yes.
It was the crisis of 2008. And I'm the guy that's mortgaged to the hill, taking a 70% pay cut in earnings, and, you know, starting a business during the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression.
At that time, you were married. Did you have children at that time?
Yeah, so my wife was pregnant with our first. So literally was January. I left January 31st was my. I left just after tax season. So I joined the practice 1st of Feb. So she was like 7 months pregnant, because my eldest was born 3rd of April. So 7 months pregnant, move our life down. You know, about to have a baby, new business, cutting earnings, all that kind of stuff.
Were you moving then down to South?
So that triggered the whole kind of shift of our life. So
where were you living then before?
Birmingham.
Birmingham.
So I was in Birmingham after uni. So I spent a good 10 years in Birmingham. Edgbaston after uni, and then because I worked in the Birmingham office of PwC. But the practice, my father-in-law's practice, was down south near Southampton. So then we had to shift our life down. February 2008, and then Lehman Brothers and everything kick off, and think, oh God, what have I done?
So then how was it? How difficult was it at the beginning then? But you still probably had residual income coming in from the clients that you had from your father-in-law's practice.
Correct, yes, because it was an existing practice. So although, you know, I was manager at PwC, so I had a decent salary. So I took a big pay cut. I had to swallow my pride and kind of move in with the in-laws for a while, because, you know, we couldn't really afford to have our own place there. And you know, that's a bit of a big pill to swallow. You know, when you're independent, you've got your own place, and then suddenly now you kind of move, and particularly the in-laws. I got a jip from my mates for doing that.
It's true.
You know what it's like, So, but it had to be done. So my mission was, I have to make this work. Got to make it work. You know, we've got to have to be able to stand on our own 2 feet again. And it was tough, because I didn't know what I was doing. Because although I was, you know, trained at PwC, got the qualifications, the ACA, the CTA, I was a good good tax advisor, but I was a hopeless business owner, because no one teaches you, when you do your accountancy training, how to run a business. No one teaches you how to price your services, how to win clients, how to lead and manage a team. So you end up just winging it. And I didn't get very far doing that.
Once you left from PwC and you're running this practice, what were the differences you found working in the corporate world to working with these smaller businesses?
So a lot of differences. The client makeup, I guess, was fairly similar, in the sense that it's the same profile of client, because I was lucky enough to work with owner-managed businesses and high net worth individuals. So one of my clients actually, you know, East End Foods in Birmingham. It's one of my clients. So a good, nice, really nice family. So it was kind of dealing with people like that, but with a couple of less zeros. Instead of 100 million, you're dealing with, like, you know, 1 million or 5 million type businesses down here. But the opportunities in terms of tax planning were similar. So I could bring that high level tax planning knowledge to the existing client base. But in terms of how the practice operated, and the fact that I was now responsible for everything, I no longer had a sounding board, or, you know, someone to pick up the phone to, or someone to talk to just across to me to ask questions. Like, I'm on my own now. The buck stops with me. I'm responsible now for all the planning. There's no one to ask for help, no one to ask for advice. So in that sense, that's very different. Where you and I was only manager. I wasn't like partner. I had, like, you know, a couple of years post qualification experience. But now I'm, like, you know, partner in this practice, and I'm now responsible for the advice I'm giving to clients, and the buck stops with me. And if something goes wrong, then it's, you know, on my neck. So that was tough. And thankfully I had a few relationships that I was able to leverage back at PwC to guide and help and things like that. But there was a big, and then the rest of it is about trying to get change in an existing practice. So already I'm coming in as a fresh face, like 27-year-old, and I've got people working there that are 10 plus years older than me. So again, that resistance to change, that, who's this guy, who do you think he is, new kid on the block, that kind of thing. So that again, you had to deal with those issues, the people issues. There were only about 3 or 4 people there at the time, but much senior. So having kind of leading that change was tough. Like, you're going to get resistance.
Yeah.
And you've got to keep battling away to kind of get your way. Because ultimately it was about, right, I want to make change. You want to rip things apart and put new things in, but you realize you can't move as fast as you want to. You've got to kind of go at their pace and bring them on the journey. All of the things you discover after banging your head against a brick wall many a times.
When you bought the practice, you've obviously seen the practice that your father-in-law's built, and they've got habits. And you're going to be a lot different because you're 27. You want to streamline as much, make people probably have the same output, but by putting the least amount of time. So you want to change systems, processes, etc. How difficult was that?
Very difficult. Yeah, it was tough. But I think for me, the systems bit was the first thing that I did, because that was something that I did learn at PwC. PwC, when I was there, had just gone paperless. They'd introduced a DMS system, document management system, which was quite good. And this was 2007, which was quite early, because I know some practices even now still have paper, which is kind of beggars belief, but they do. 2025. But yeah, back then it was early days. So that was one of my first projects. How can because we had like a whole massive room full of filing cabinets and files, and the papers used to just stack up, and the secretary would spend hours every day just filing. I thought, this is such a complete waste of time. And things like that irritated me, like inefficient system. So that was one of the first things that I implemented, going paperless. Managed to do it in 2011 eventually, where we just stopped doing anything paper and everything went paperless, and we had an electronic system to file emails and documents and things like that. So that was one of the first things, practice management system, bringing that in, bringing in websites, stuff like that. So they were kind of easier wins, but they still took like 3 years for me to get to that point where we went paperless after researching solutions, because this was still early days where there wasn't as many solutions as they are now. And then, funnily enough, though, I also introduced something which I'm very anti now. Timesheets. The practice didn't have timesheets, and I was the muggins that brought it in because PwC did it, so it must be the right thing to do. So I bring in timesheets, and then clearly found the way many years later. But yeah, things like that kind of brought in. But there was no one at the time that I could learn from, so I was just trying to find my way, just winging it, trying things, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't. Ultimately, though, I was just trying anything and everything, and I didn't really know what I was doing until that turning point, which you mentioned in 2014, which started the transformation journey.
Did you have any staff turnover in that time?
A lot
of staff turnover.
Yeah,
so all the old people that were with you or with your father-in-law at the time, had they all shifted? Or
thankfully, only 2 of them stayed.
Oh, okay.
2 of them stayed. And they're still there now today.
Oh, they're still there now?
They're still there today. So they have been there. They're a married couple.
Yeah.
They've been there. So Tracy, who joined my father-in-law back in 1983, still there.
Okay, wow.
42 years of service. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then she met her husband, Rakesh, there 10 years later. He joined in 1990 or something. So he's been there like 33 years. Or something crazy, which is phenomenal. So those 2 have stayed. Everyone else that came and went, gone.
They must have been embracing the change, like they were very open to embracing the change.
Not really.
No. How did they survive?
Hope they don't watch this. I mean, eventually they did, but it took a long time to, an old doc to learn new tricks. It took a long time to get them to, and even now sometimes it's a struggle because, I guess for people who are that mentality where people who are not like us, leading change. Entrepreneurs, we like to break things fast and then fix them. Whereas employees, they need that stability. And for them, change is a big thing. For them, it's very risky to change something. They think, it's already working. Why are you trying to change it? because it's taking you double the time that I think it will take you. So we need to change systems, and it's very inefficient. But they don't see it that way. They just think it's working. Why are you messing with it? All that kind of stuff. So slowly take them on the journey. Show them evidence of why it's work, how it can change their. Ultimately, you've got to show them what's in it for them. How is it going to save you time? How is it going to make your life easier? How is it going to help you get the help that you need so you don't have so much on, you're not stressed, you're able to manage your workload a lot better, share the workload out to the team, that kind of thing. So,
do you think as once someone embraces that change, the changes that come after that are easier for them to stomach compared to, or do you get the same resistance on anything that you change at every occasion?
Yeah, no, I think it does get better over time.
Yeah.
So once that trust builds up, that they see, oh, like for everything that he's suggesting, it works, it's made our life easier. Then that trust builds up. But you've got to earn that trust. And at first, it's very difficult because at first it's like, who do you think you are? We've been doing this way longer than you. And what do you know?
What were some changes or systems that you implemented that didn't work?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, timesheets was one that I had to repeal. We've been through a lot of iterations of different softwares that we've had, but that's just evolution, right? You do something and then something else comes on, which is a lot better, and then you implement that. But in terms of I went on a journey about pricing was a big one, like how I priced then compared to how I price now. So then back then it was all about, how much time do I think it would take and charging by the hour and all that kind of nonsense that I did because that was what I learned at PwC. So I thought if they do it, it must be the right thing to do. So that's changed a lot.
Did your father-in-law price that way as well?
Yeah.
So you were just picking that up and
picking that up. It was either that or he would throw a figure out. So it was in his head. Whatever he thought, he would sit with a client and say, it would be this. Fine. And some of the fees he hadn't changed for years. Like we're talking 10, 15 years, the fees hadn't changed. So there was a lot of kind of repricing and stuff to do as well on that front. And then, marketing was a big one. Like just learning how to win business was a big thing because I didn't know. I did anything and everything. So I did the early morning BNI meetings with breakfast. I did the telemarketing. I did the mail shots.
Yellow pages.
Everything. You name it, I did it. And after many years of kind of dabbling and not really finding one thing that really worked, I realized that all these things were just tactics. And tactics without the actual strategy was just noise. And strategy is just about being clear on who you serve. Once you get your target audience right, get clear on that who, then the what, where, and how to find them becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. So going to 2014, where you had a bit of a big mindset change, what was it? What triggered it?
So that was things were pretty tough, working crazy hours. I had 2014, so our fourth was born in 2014, so I had 4 kids under 5, so 4 kids in the space of 5 years. Family life was busy, but I was living in continuous regret, kind of watching my kids grow, but unable to make lasting memories because I'm spending all hours under the sun at work. And it wasn't supposed to be that way because the business was supposed to be the vehicle that gave us the freedom to be able to enjoy time with the kids, go on holiday, but instead I was in a glorified job or worse. So something had to change. And then as I'm sitting in the office late one evening, I see a webinar with an email with an invitation to a webinar on practice growth, promising to solve all my problems. Now things couldn't possibly get any worse, so I registered and I attended. And I was glued for 90 minutes. And what I learned that day planted the seed that led to the transformation of my journey. So off the back of that webinar, I joined the mentoring program from the guy that was running it. He'd run a practice before, now he was mentoring accountants on pricing. So I joined the mentoring program, and then I would sit there. 90 minutes a month was the program every single month. I would sit there, I would close the door, no interruptions, and I would diligently take notes and action something. I was skeptical at first, but I thought, let me just try. Let me just have trust because I've joined the program, I'm paying for it. I'll test it. So I put some things into action and I got results. So that gave me the confidence to test more. And then I got bigger and better results. And then within 24 months, I'd gone from, like you mentioned, chasing clients for invoices of 500 to 1,000 to winning a project of 66,000. And then 2 years later, winning that £135,000 project. And that was all because of that shift from pricing based upon time to pricing based upon value. But that discovery came by me investing in myself to become a better business owner, to learn from others that had gone before me. Ultimately, it wasn't my brainwave, it was me just taking that step to trust someone else who had gone on the journey before me, and then heeding their advice and taking action and then getting results. And that kind of opened my eyes to there's this whole world of people who've gone on the journey, who have got the scars, so you don't have to. So start devouring the books, listening to the podcasts, going on courses, getting mentors, coaches, learning from some of the best minds in the world on marketing and sales, and actually doing what I should have done 10 years prior, which was to invest in myself to learn those business skills, which are the skills needed to grow a business: marketing, sales, leadership, pricing. You can get accountants to do accounting work.
Yeah.
As the entrepreneur and leader of your business, you need to invest in yourself to become a better business owner so you can do the best for your clients, your team, and ultimately yourself and your family.
Do you think that when you first took over the practice, you weren't open to listening around for advice, and 2014 you kind of shifted that mentality to be open to more options, or was it you just never came across it before?
Yeah, I think back then it wasn't as prevalent as it is now. There wasn't sort of, LinkedIn as we see now. There wasn't as many voices. There was things like AVN existed, so I'd gone to a couple of theirs, but I never really took the plunge. And I guess it gets to that point where I teach accountants and marketing now, like people take action when they're in pain. And I think my level of pain had got to the point in 2014 where I thought I have to take action now.
Yeah.
I've got to take the plunge. I've got to invest in myself and take that first step. And that kind of was the unlock for me, that I finally decided to get the help that I should have got many years prior.
So that was your solution, but did you have anything else that you tried that probably didn't work for you in that time when you were having your pain? Was there anything else that you tried and thought, actually, that didn't work, but then this worked?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just me dabbling, really. Like, you'd get an email from one agency on telemarketing or something, or you go to a seminar and you try that and you're paying money. And I did that. I engaged telemarketing agencies, and it worked to get clients, but the quality of clients wasn't great. So I learned the hard way that I was getting appointments and I would go to clients and I'd win those clients, but the only reason I won them was because I undercut their current accountant. So it's no surprise that they came to me. But I learned the hard way because a couple of years later, they left me because some other accountant who engaged a telemarketer called them up, undercut me, and they left. So I learned the hard way that people who join you on price will leave you on price. So these were lessons that you have to learn. And now I can tell those lessons to others, that that's not the best way to kind of price your services. You've got to position yourself as an expert so that you are the ones that they see as different to everybody else, and you can then be that specialist who has a solution to their problem.
You know what it is with that? I think it's having that experience. You kind of do get to that stage where you know that the people that come ask for discounts or whatever are your biggest headache. The people that just value what you do and probably are busy themselves or successful themselves know that their time has value, your time has value, probably will leave you alone the most and pay you on time, etc., etc. But someone that normally leaves the practice and starts their own practice, I think everyone has that breaking point where it's like, okay, it's been 1 month, no clients, 2 months, no clients. What do I do now? This pricing ain't working. What would you say to people like that?
Yeah, I think, it's your pricing kind of follows the reason why most people struggle to win clients. And winning clients is the number one challenge. I mean, I've been, helping coaching accountants for the last 6 years now. My Facebook group has about 1,600 accountants in it now. And I ask them a question before they join the group: what is your number one challenge? And by far and away, 90% of replies will be getting new clients, finding clients, winning business, practice growth. So that is still the number one challenge for most firm owners. And it's because we're not taught how to market when we do our accountancy training. So most accountants, they try and be all things to all people. And when you're like that, when you look like every other accountant, you get lost in that sea of sameness. So it's not a surprise that you're getting pushback from clients on your prices, because they can't see you as different from any other accountant. If they can't see you as different, you're a commodity. If you're a commodity, the only thing separating you from the accountant down the road is price. And that's never a good thing, because it's going to be a race to the bottom. So the only way to get out of that is to differentiate. And the way to differentiate in our world is to choose a specialism, either niche by activity or niche by industry or niche by life cycle, but be different. Specialize in a certain area so you get seen as the expert in that area. And people seek out experts. When you have a problem, you go to the GP and also you've got this problem, they send you to a specialist. So you will seek out a specialist and then your perception of a specialist is a lot higher than a generalist. If your perception is higher, you're going to be prepared to pay them more, because just naturally you expect to pay more to a specialist. So that's your pricing will follow your positioning. The more highly positioned you are, the more specialist you are, pricing will follow. So if you're struggling to get pricing at the moment, get good prices, clients always wanting to lowball or ask for discounts, it's probably because you're not differentiated enough. And they can say, well, I can get it cheaper down the road.
Yeah.
And you can't say, well, I'm different because of X, Y, and Z. They can't see you as different. You do tax returns, you do accounts, you do bookkeeping, you do VAT, so does the accountant down the road. What makes you different? That's what you've got to work on. Get that differentiating factor nailed, and then you'll be able to attract better quality clients paying you higher prices.
Did you ever consider throwing the towel in? Were you ever at that point?
Pretty close, I think. Pretty close.
When was that?
Yeah, around that 2014 time, but it would have killed me. Like, that's the worst thing, to have to throw the towel in, go back to the day job, and everyone else then confirming that, we made the right decision staying, and you made a big mistake leaving, and now you're coming groveling back.
Yeah.
That would have been a killer in terms of, the shame and the embarrassment, all that kind of thing. So, yeah, no, there's definitely a real fear, and I see that in many today. And that's why I urge any budding new practice owner to get help, soon as you can. Learn from others that have gone before you, that have got the scars, that can help kind of shortcut your learnings, that help you get to where you want to in a couple of 2-3 years, rather than it taking you 10 years or not getting there at all.
I think the problem is with society nowadays, though. I think the issue is that accountants would see each other as competition, when it's not really that. And I've had this conversation with people before, like people setting up here and wanting advice or whatnot. I'm like, I'm willing to help, because like there's enough to go around. Like at the end of the day, like there's not this thing of like you set up and I help you set up. If you make more than me, you make more than me. That's the way it is, and that's qadr of Allah. And at the end of the day, the risk is from Allah. So, and I think it's that one thing that people just have that mindset. I feel like it's more prevalent in the kind of Asian community more than anything else, but I think that's why people aren't open to then go for help, and they'd rather struggle in silence and struggle on their own, rather than actually go and say, okay, this person has actually gone through this path, let's see what I can pick up. Maybe your paths were different, maybe you can pick up one or two things. Like the thing that fascinates me the most about yourself is the fact that you're pricing, and like I said, I used to work with Kuli, and tax assist obviously do pricing based on London pricing, and then we're based in Birmingham, in the middle of Birmingham, in like a ghetto, and you're like, you can't charge that kind of pricing in the ghetto. But now what you're making, the points that you're making, I'm like, actually that does make a lot of sense. It's like like when you were talking about in a niche, I was like thinking about a garage. Like if I've got my Mercedes now and I've got two garages to pick one, and one says they're a Mercedes specialist, even if the Mercedes specialist charging more, I'm going to go to the Mercedes specialist. Yeah, that's just natural.
Absolutely,
because they're going to know what to do with my car.
Exactly.
Same in accounts.
Automatically, once someone, just like if you're looking for a marketing agency for accountants, one is a general marketing agency, another one says marketing agency for accountants. You're automatically going to go to that one because you just feel they understand you better. They may not have any accountant clients, but just the fact that they say it, automatically you think they'll understand me better, they'll know my problems, they deal with people like me. So, that is just, as humans, we just make those quick judgments.
Yeah.
And so you've just got to follow that if you want to be perceived as a Yeah, but a lot of accountants also have confidence issues that they think, oh, but I'm not a specialist. But you don't need to have worked with dozens of clients in a particular sector
Just
to be
need
a
to know how to do
specialist.
it.
Just need to know. I mean, we started a whole new accounting firm called Capture Accounting
Yep.
for content creators, based upon working with the grand total of one client in that space. But we worked with them for 18 months. So we understood the issues of how they get their income and how to set up the books and the tax issues. So we knew a little bit more than a generalist accountant who'd never worked with content creators. So compared to a generalist who'd never worked with them, we're a specialist.
Yeah.
So therefore, we can call ourselves specialists, and then you learn on the go. But the beauty about knowledge is that once you've got it, it stays with you. So going deeper into, inch wide, mile deep is what I say. Pick a specialism and then you go deeper and deeper, which means it's harder for people to follow. Plus, when you're a generalist, you're trying to deal with 57 different industries. And that's the reason why you're overworked, overwhelmed, and your team are the same, because you're dealing with, queries on CIS one day, and then superannuation for doctors and dentists another day, and then you've got VAT issues for content creators, and you've got buy-to-let issues. You're never, it's very hard for you to know everything about everything. So you become jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
And that means that your clients don't really feel that you really understand their business because you're serving so many of them. So when you try and appeal to everyone, you actually appeal to no one.
Would you say you're a control freak? Or would you say the Reza of 2014 was a control freak?
Possibly. Yes. Yeah. I've changed a lot. Now I'm the complete opposite. So as much hands off as I can get, the better. And now, actually, people tell me, aren't you worried that you have no client relationships and that your team will run away with your clients? My wife tells me, like, you give them too much control. Like, they do everything. Why? You need to, it's being in business is all about risk. There's a risk if you do, there's a risk if you don't. If you don't hand over control and you don't give relationships and responsibility to your team, then you're always going to be the one who's going to be on all the time, getting emails, phone calls, not being able to go on holiday, stress, risk, everything falls on you. So that is a risk in itself, that you don't have the freedom that you want when you first set up. And if you do, yes, there's always a risk that they will run away, but then that is something that you've got to work on. So how can I make sure that I create the conditions and the culture that attract the best talent, retain the high performers, and maximize everyone's potential? So how can I give them that freedom and all the benefits of essentially running their own business, but without the downside, without the risk of they have to try and win business, or we're ultimately being a business is a risk. But if I can create the conditions for my team, so one of the things we do is you can work when, where, how you want. I don't care, as long as the work gets done. So it's that kind of environment where only results matter. I don't care where you work from. I just care that the results are produced. So that's another thing which I've worked on a lot in terms of the leadership, my leadership style, culture. I had no idea about how to do any of these things before, and it's only through, reading the books and investing in myself to become a better leader, and actually understanding what drives employee motivation, and that psychology of getting inside people's heads in order to be able to build that practice that can run without me and mitigate that risk that everyone's going to run away with my clients because I don't have any client relationships anymore.
How was that journey? What triggered that journey of you being a control freak to not being a control freak? What was the point behind it, the driving factor behind that? Was it during COVID that you realized actually I can do it without being so involved? Was it just like spending more time with your family, or what was it?
Yeah, I guess some of it was, non-intentional, in that I couldn't really be a control freak over the work itself, because I didn't admit this for a long time, but I can admit it now, is that I didn't actually know how to prepare a set of accounts or a tax return or do bookkeeping. Because when you're at PwC, you don't do any of that, I was just doing tax advisory work. There was a whole team that did tax compliance, and accounts audit did. Like, we never did accounts. Yeah. So I'm buying this more practice. And when I bought the practice, I was in a dilemma. Do I actually go and learn how to do these things because I don't know how to do them? But I couldn't tell my team, the 2 or 3 people that were there, that I didn't know how to do this, because they'll think, who's this guy? You know, chartered accountant, doesn't know how to run a set of accounts. But so I had to kind of pretend. And therefore I didn't get involved. I did client meetings, I had to read a set of accounts.
Yeah.
And it turned out it didn't matter. Like, I don't need to know how to prepare a set of accounts, because I can employ people to do that. And the stuff I was doing was much more high level, which is what counts in terms of tax advisory and growing the business and all the rest of it. So that part, I could never have control over, because I didn't know how to do it anyway. The client relationships I still held. So that was a thing where I think for me it probably came as a turning point when I started to get my time back. So when we kind of transformed the business, and my mentor said to me, so from 2014 to 2019, I'm part of the mentoring program. I'm attending every single month, even though some of the stuff was repeated. You know, I got so much value from it. I'm still a student of my mentor. In 2019, he says, why don't you do a session showing the audience what you're doing, how you're applying what I'm teaching you in practice, because he had left his practice 20 years prior. So he wasn't actually practicing anymore. So I did a session that went down really well. It was on pricing. And he said, okay, well, you know, let's do this every month and I'll pay you and you can build up your audience on the side. So I started to do that. And I enjoyed it because it was something different. You know, I enjoyed the distilling of information and sharing what I'm doing with others, presenting it in the way that I present it, and also then getting into this whole world of how do I build a secondary kind of virtual business, putting out content online, experimenting with that. And I found I enjoyed that. So I'm building this secondary business. And after a year or so, my mentor and I end up being kind of competing businesses, because my audience grew, and his was kind of competing. So we agreed to part ways amicably, and we're still in touch and friends today. But I found that I enjoyed that more than I did the practice and meeting with clients and stuff like that. So I think then I decided to. I think the turning point probably came when I made a couple of key hires that showed potential in taking over those client relationships, that I could trust that they would do it, you know, as I expected it to be done. And therefore I allowed it to happen. And yeah, I think because I had this other thing on the go, then it just allowed me that, and I could see that, okay, fine, I don't really need to be involved. I kind of, you know, pulled back from client relationships, and then I was purposely trying to do less in the practice. So if clients were emailing me or phoning me, then I would not respond, and I would forward the email to my team member and give them the answer if they need it, and say, look, you respond. Here's the answer, you respond. So training the client that don't email Reza, because you're not going to get a response. Email your account manager, you'll get a response from them. And that helped over a period of a couple of years to remove myself from, you know, getting hassled by clients, and letting the team handle it so I could do the stuff that I enjoyed. And I think it's, I guess, experience and wisdom as you get older that you find your passion and your zone of genius. And I found that, you know, doing what I do now, it was my passion. Like, it's stuff that where work feels like play. You can do all day long. And I love that kind of distilling of, you know, learning stuff, applying it, and then teaching others. And that's kind of my zone of genius now.
You said you had a few key hires that shifted it. How hard was it finding staff over the course of your time of being in practice? And do you think that now it's getting harder finding staff in the UK? I'm talking about.
Yeah. Finding people is always going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
As firm owners, we're only going to have 2 big problems. Now, whether you're PwC or whether you're, you know, Joe Blogs and Co. one-man band, our 2 big problems are only going to be how to get new clients, how to get good people. And still, even now, that is, if it's like a pendulum. I always say the 2 big problems, if you've got lots of clients coming in, you're going to have to hire people, right? And if you've got people with capacity, you're going to have to go and get clients. It's always going to be one of those 2. And that's the problem. So although we've got our clients coming in, the hurdle is the capacity. Like, you know, we can't find good people to be able to then take on board the new clients that are coming in. But I guess what I've learned is in order to be able to attract people to you, culture is important in terms of how you operate, particularly with us when we're in the smaller firms. We don't have a brand like PwC. So how can you create something that, again, all boils down to differentiation. What differentiates you and your practice against the accountant down the road? Because essentially the work is going to be the same. but what is differentiating you? And then it all boils down to, as a leader, have you articulated what is your mission? What is your vision? What are your core values? How can you put that out there to attract people who resonate with those values and with the mission and want to be led and want to come on that journey with you to that North Star? But most practice owners, we don't have a vision. We don't have a mission. But that's important for good people. They want good people who are ambitious and driven, want to know, where are you heading? What am I? Can my goals fit within your goals? And if you don't have any goals, your goals are small, and the employees' goals are big, they're not going to last very long, or you're not going to be able to attract that creme de la creme of talent. So for us, it's about, Capture Accounting was born out of a marketing test, and now the mission is we want to be the number one brand for content creators in the country. That's the mission. That is a lofty mission that, there's no point being mediocre at all you do. You want to be the best. We want to be the best. We want to be number one. It's a very clear, articulated vision and mission. And then we have core values that we hire and fire based upon. So that's all part of our recruitment process. And when people align with that, then we know they're the right people to bring on the bus with us.
Do you have high staff turnover?
No. Thankfully not. No, we've had those two staff that have been with us 30, 40 years. And then the next batch would have been everyone that I recruited. So they have been, I've had Karen who's been with me, 11 years now. Others who've been, all 5, 6 years plus. Yeah. Anyone who we did have a high staff turnover until about 2018. So people came, people went. And that was because I put it down to me not really knowing as to what are the factors that drive employee motivation. Yeah. So my unlock there was I read my first business book, 2017. So I came across business books very late. So again, my son's 17 and I'm like telling them, you got to read books, these books, podcasts, YouTube, this is what you need to be doing. But I read a book called Drive by Dan Pink, and that opened my eyes to this whole world of, it's all about what drives employee motivation, and it's not money. It's autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Those three things. Like, we all want the autonomy to be able to work on our own terms, have that independence in what we work on. We want to be mastery, we want to be working on something which is in line with our natural skill set that we are good at. So that gives us that motivation to do more of it. And purpose. We need to be aligned to a bigger purpose than just the work that we are doing. And if you get those things in place, then it helps you to motivate people, to keep people with you. So I read a lot of books around leadership and culture. And 2018 was the year that we went to this environment, the results only work environment, where you can work when, where, and how you want, as long as the work gets done. Yeah. But I had to make a few fires before that. So we were going
to. There's some people you wouldn't be able to trust in that environment.
Exactly, yeah. So where we were going to get rid of the timesheets, we were going to give them this complete freedom and control that, I had to make those tough calls that, okay, these people, I know you're toxic. I haven't done anything about it because you're doing the work. Yeah. But when we move to this, I've got to, do the hard things so things become easier later. And it's a breath of fresh air. A lot of people, they procrastinate. It's hard to get rid of people that shouldn't be there. Yeah. But actually, everyone else steps up because your average performance drops to the level of your lowest performance. So when you get rid of low performers, increase, everything else goes up. So since 2018, we've not had anyone leave that we didn't want to leave. We've exited people that may have joined. Yeah. But anyone that has been with us since 2018 has not left.
So when did the profitable accountant community get set up? Was it 2019, did you say? 2019 I started. It wasn't called that. It was called, I didn't know we have a name for it. Transform Your Profits or something. Yeah. It was called that at the time. So that was born through my mentor asking me to do the sessions, and then I set up that business and I ran with him for a year, and then I kind of did it on my own. I rebranded to The Pack just before I launched my book because I needed more of a catchy name. And Join the Pack sounds much better than Join the Transform Your Profits mentoring community. Yeah. What difference did you see from your mentor to you? And the reason why I'm asking you is because you mentioned that your mentor hadn't been in practice for 20 years. Mm. So what was the difference between you and your mentor? Like someone that's in practice at this moment in time, because practice has changed a lot. I've been in practice probably 14 years, and it's changed significantly in them 14 years. I remember the days we didn't have RTI for payroll, and we had to submit at the end of the year, and you just give pay slips and nil returns every quarter. So like so much has changed over the course of that 15 years. And if he's been out of practice for the last 20 years, what was that significant difference between you and him?
Yeah, I think what he was teaching was nothing to do with the accounting work. It was all to do with, he was just teaching pricing.
Yeah.
So that's a whole big subject in itself. And it was fascinating because it was all to do with pricing psychology and behavioral economics. And that really opened my eyes. It's a fascinating subject in terms of how do we as humans make pricing decisions. And this whole field of knowledge on behavioral economics is quite new. It only last 30 years it's kind of come about. But it's fascinating how we as humans make purchasing decisions all around emotions and even colors and how we perceive things, and like concept of anchoring, where we're given a number just before we make a pricing decision, and that number affects our willingness to pay a higher price for something. So things like that, how psychology so pricing is more about psychology than hourly rates or anything like that. And that's what we need to understand. So that kind of opened my eyes so he was teaching pricing, but that's all he was teaching. And then through him, I realized that, actually he's got this knowledge because he's learned from others. And he used to recommend, I read this book and I read that book. So through that, then I thought, okay, well, that's where he's getting the information from. So now I would pick up a book and I would see exactly the example he shared, and I would go to the source. And then I read more and more books. I then branched out into reading sales books and then reading marketing books. And it was the marketing that really got me that, wow, this is fascinating. And that's an area where I've gone real deep, that I've, devoured all the marketing books and absorbed and consumed the content of the best minds on the planet when it comes to marketing, because ultimately that is the skill which provides you the biggest leverage, because marketing is the art of getting customers. If you have no customers, you have no business. It is the skill that will give you the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to your return on time, energy, attention, and money. Because if you think about it, you doing accounting work, the value of that, say preparing accounts, preparing tax return, is akin to you paying somebody 40, 50 grand a year to do that work. That's the value of time. So your value of you doing that work, you're doing a £20 an hour task, right? You working on your marketing is, if you translate that to what is the value of my hour spent on marketing? It is significantly higher. It is in the thousands of pounds. If you think about it, when you win a client, the value of that client is not just the fee they're going to pay you in year one, but it's the lifetime value of what they're going to pay you over the lifetime they're going to be with you. And we know that we're in such a fortunate profession that when you win a client, it's a legal requirement to do accounts and tax returns. And provided you don't make a complete big zero of it, they're going to stay with you for years. In our case, we've had clients going back 40 years. Like when I look at my sales by customer summary, it only goes back 8 years. But there are, because we started QuickBooks 8-9 years ago, but some clients have paid us £400,000-500,000 in that time frame. So if I think about it like that and think, okay, me going out and working on marketing, and if I win a client, then having spent that hour or two on marketing has generated a client paying, say, £5,000 a year. But it's not just £5,000. It's, say, 5 times 10, £50,000. So me spending half a day on marketing to win that client, my hourly rate is like thousands of pounds equivalent. So that's what I try and get across to accountants, is that get accountants to do the accounting work and payroll and tax returns. You focus your time and effort in becoming a better marketer. Because if you can do that, then you get a much better return on your resources expended, your time, money, energy, and attention.
You do a lot of public speaking. I saw you in Accountex, not this year, last year. How was it when you first started doing public speaking? Did you find it daunting? Was it nervous? Or just a natural?
No, 100%. No one is a born public speaker. These are all, again, they're all skills that you learn. I'm a natural introvert. Although you see me speak on stage, in a group situation, I hate networking. Like,
Join the club.
It's like the worst thing.
ever.
Worst thing. Like having to be in a group of people and make conversation. Like,
Now, I think the worst thing about networking is like you go to a networking event and people are just telling you how good they are, and you're just like, okay, yeah, like what? Like you don't like people will buy off people, and if me and you have a conversation about anything, football, cricket, whatever, you end up forming a kind of a bond rather than me coming here saying, oh yeah, I'm an accountant. Okay, this is what I do. This is how I've got this many clients and this how many million my practice. No one really cares about that. Yeah,
no one cares. Yeah. So yeah, public speaking was just as I'm developing my coaching business. Then 2020, I think, was the first one. I did digital accountancy show.
Oh yeah.
That I was invited to do that, and yeah, it was quite nerve-wracking. But again, my thought process in terms of, okay, I'm going to do this. How can I prepare for this in the best possible way? The best possible way for me to prepare for it is to hire someone that's already done it that can coach me through it. So this is everything boils down to that, to the realization that everything that I'm sharing now is not through my own genius. It is everything that I've learned over time. There are no unique messages, only unique messengers. So I tell people, I'm a unique messenger to you, but it's not a unique message. It's not something I've just miraculously come up with. I've learned from others, I've learned. And the same thing I did with public speaking. So I got a coach. I asked the coach, because I knew the power of storytelling, because I'd learned that in marketing as I was going through it. So he helped me come up with my kind of signature story at the beginning. And then I hired another coach who I learned from in terms of how do you come across assertively? How do you create the world with gestures? There's a tip that he taught me about how to remove filler words, which I've taught to my kids, a fantastic tip. Getting rid of the ums and the ahs and things like that. And it's all about using the stop pause technique that I'll just share it with you now. It might be useful for people. Is that anytime you think you're going to say a filler word, so you'll know what your filler word is. It might be like, sort of, in terms of, I use in terms of.
Mine's is to be honest a lot.
Yeah,
I say that
exactly.
I say that a lot.
So if you want to get rid of a filler word, this is what you do. You become more conscious of it. Then when you anticipate yourself saying it, just stop, pause, think about what you're going to say next, and then carry on. Now to you, that pause will sound like forever, and that's why we try and fill it with words, because we think if we're not talking, they're going to talk back, or they're going to think what you're saying next. But actually, people need time to ingest what we are saying. And when you stop and pause, it actually makes you sound more assertive, more confident. So it's a little tip and technique. Things like that I've picked up over time, like from others who are experts in this area. But I got on stage through getting that coaching, and then that giving me the confidence to be able to present, and then continuing to do that over time to get better at the craft.
If you didn't buy your father-in-law's practice all that many years ago, do you think you would have set up practice eventually on your own anyway?
Good question. I'm not sure I would have, because like I said, when you start off on your own, you've got to do everything. And I didn't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do any bookkeeping or accounting, I could have set up a tax advisory practice, but that would have been quite tough.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether, I guess it's difficult to say, but yeah, ultimately it's by the by now. It happens.
You've obviously got a bit of a blueprint of success when it comes to accounting firms. Are you in the market for acquisitions, or what's next in that sense?
Not really for acquisitions. I'm continuing to share and help others on the journey. I think the fact that I'm still running a practice makes what I teach highly relevant, because it's not just theory that I am sharing, it's what's working right now as we are scaling our practice to 5 million in the next 5 years. So everything I'm doing, I'm sharing on the journey to my members. And we've also got a mastermind group where we are looking to work together to build a consolidated group in the next 5 years as well. So yeah, that's the big agenda. I've also got another business I've started, which is developing pricing software for accountants, because I teach a lot about pricing, but I'm sending them to another tool. If I had my own tool, then I could incorporate my teachings within that tool.
It's a big gap in the market for software here, though. In the accounting, it's mad how in the UAE accounting software is so far behind compared to the UK.
Yeah,
and I'm in a similar situation where I've picked a practice management software, but I'm constantly building on there at the moment because I want it to be unique to and relevant here.
Yeah.
You said obviously you're doing consolidated groups. The accounting space in the UK, I find at this moment in time, is a bit strange. And I'll explain to you why it's so strange. Because there's a lot of changes happening. Obviously, there's AI. So there's always that thing of AI is going to take your jobs or whatever, which I don't think is going to happen. But then there's a lot of kind of private equity buying into smaller practices at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Do you know why that is at this moment in time? Like,
yes, I do.
and they're paying good money for them as well.
They do. Yeah. So what's happening is that the private equity realize that we've got a fantastic business model.
We do.
We have this legal requirement, plus we have massive lifetime values, and we have recurring income, which, big ticks when it comes to a business model. On top of that, highly undervalued. So when you look at the typical multiples you would get when selling a practice, it's like 1 times, 1.2, 1.3 potentially times turnover, which translates to maybe 3 times EBITDA, which is nothing really. It's like getting paid back in 3 years. So private equity have seen that as a massive opportunity to come in and gobble up practices and then generate synergies and efficiencies through outsourcing, offshoring, consolidations, and that kind of thing. It's not direct private equity. It tends to be private equity will back big accounting firms. So they've actually invested into quite a large chunk of the top 20 accounting firms and have given them the resources and cash to go out and gobble up smaller firms. So that's a play that's happening at the moment. How long it will last, who knows? Hopefully it will last at least 5 years, so we can get our mission accomplished. But that's the reason why they're doing it. In that it's just a fantastic business model for them to be into, for them to generate the returns that
it's a great asset. It's a great asset in an accountancy practice. People don't look at it as an asset,
no, they don't.
But it's actually a great asset.
Yeah.
Like, think of it compared to a house.
Yeah.
A house will pay you yields of like 5 to 8% maybe.
Exactly.
And then you sell your house, and people don't realize you can sell a practice after. You've kind of mastered marketing. Your practice.
Still learning.
You're still learning. Okay, you're still learning.
Yeah.
Would you never franchise your practice? Become a franchisor? And
Maybe.
like under the profitable accountants community, or have a banner of one brand, and then start selling franchise licenses, and people can open in locations, and you give them all that support.
Yeah, I guess that probably doesn't align with my methodologies to win business. So I guess you're maybe coming from an angle of like the taxes, etc., having a local base. For me, the big opportunity now is that you don't need a physical presence. Like our brand, Capture Accounting, is worldwide, nationwide. None of our clients have come to our office in Eastleigh near Southampton. And that's the big opportunity where post-COVID, what happened is that people became comfortable having Zoom conversations. Technology now exists for clients to send us information electronically. So people no longer need an accountant that's local to them. Whereas pre-COVID, most accountants would have had their client base within a 10, 20 mile radius of their office. That's no longer the case.
Even if you don't sell it like location based, but like a loose location based. So for example, if a central system gets a lead coming in from your marketing and it's in your area, you get that lead, but people can use your brand, and you've got your brand that holds a bit of weight in the industry.
Yeah.
If you end up doing it, just give me a cut, man. We're good.
Yeah, no, I guess it's what I would like to create, which is what we're working on now, is a brand of brands. So for me, it's all about, so Capture is like a brand for content creators, known for that. Now, when in marketing, when you confuse, you lose. So if capture then started to appeal to dentists and doctors, that brand will get diluted.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have like a Unilever. That's the umbrella brand, right? So that's the pack is the umbrella. And then you have capture, and within that I've got other members who are experts in dentists, and they'll have a brand. And then you'll have, the doctors one, and then the architects, and the construction one. So a house of brands is essentially what I would like to create, because I think that would be highly valuable to a purchaser, where they've got all these specialist brands under one umbrella. So within the umbrella, we can absolutely generate efficiencies because the work is the same. So, the offshoring solution, the outsourcing, the practice management solutions, the work is the same, but the marketing has to be very different between the brands.
You work less than 10 hours a week on your accountancy practice. Do you think anyone and everyone can do that, or do you think that's because of what you've done over the last 18 years odd?
No, I mean, it's all there. It's all there in terms of how I've done what I've done. So absolutely, it's possible for anyone. I mean, more and more people are doing it. I met up with members here who have now kind of relocated. People are running their practices. I mean, you are from, different country. So it's possible now. And I think that's the beauty now of living in this age of social media, that people are openly sharing what they've done so others can look and think, wow, what is possible? And it motivates and inspires others as to what they could achieve. So, I'm nothing special. Like I say, I got average GCSEs, average A-levels, just scraped a 2-1 at university, just scraped through ACA. I'm not a high flyer, didn't get any prizes, nothing like that. Fairly average student. PwC weren't very, bothered for me to leave. It's like, okay, fine, you can go. They didn't try very hard to keep me. So, it goes to show you don't have to be heading to Oxford, Cambridge, anything like that. It's that whole, I think more and more it's coming out into the open that it's not the academic qualifications that determine success. It's more about, are you a lifelong learner? Are you prepared to invest in the skills required to become a better business owner? And that anyone can do. YouTube has democratized knowledge and information. You can learn anything off that. And that's the one thing, I've given my kids a YouTube premium subscription and told my son, who's now 17, go and learn the key skills of business. If you want to go into business, go learn marketing, go learn sales, go learn accounting. So he's doing an accountancy apprenticeship with me. I'm also trying to get him a role into like doing cold calling, learn the hard way, and knock on doors, get here, no. And then that builds resilience. And, learn the skill of marketing, because every business is a marketing business. Every business needs customers. You don't have customers, you don't have a business.
I say this all the time. I was like, you can have the best product, best service, but if people don't know about it, then there's no point in it.
Absolutely.
Finally, what's your why in business? Why are you in business? What's your why?
What's my why?
I think I already know it, but
tell me.
You're obviously money. Everyone gets into business to make money, but that money has to give you. Look, some people will get that money and be extravagant and will want houses, cars, whatnot. But I think your why is basically spending more time with your family. Am I accurate in that?
Yeah, I think the freedom.
Freedom.
It's the freedom that I can work on my own terms. And it doesn't mean I work any less. Yes, I don't work as much in the practice, but I have that drive still. I want to build something special. I want to share everything I do. I want to make more impact in the world. I want to make sure my book gets in the hand of every practice owner worldwide and every budding practice owner, being able to share what I've learned on the journey and just make more impact. And hopefully create value in the world through what I've learned the hard way.
How is it being an author? How do you become an author? How did you just do that? Like, what was it? Just one day you just sat there and thought, you know what, I can put this podcast into a book, or I can put my training into a book. What was it?
Yeah. So again, that came through what I learned from a mentor. He always used to say that, write a book. And I'd written small books, like ebooks, for the practice. So I wrote, like, back in 2014, 10 tax strategies guaranteed to save you thousands or something. And that instantly differentiated me from other accountants, because I now had a book that I would give and everyone, oh, you got a book? Yeah. I mean, it was only like this big, but it was printed. So it was a book, it was like 30 pages long, but it was still a book. It was and then I wrote a mini books like that to grow my practice. And then when I started coaching accountants 2019, I developed this methodology of the 4 pillars. And I knew that for it to real gain weight, for me to go to the next level, to make that impact, I need to put this inside something quite comprehensive. Because when you're an author, instant credibility, it solidifies the framework that you have created and enables you to really go deep on your thoughts and how you do things. So I remember it was 2022. We were on a family holiday to Barbados. And
Beautiful place.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I love Barbados.
Yeah, December, Christmas time. And so it was that time we start to think about New Year's goals. What am I going to do? So I'm there, I've got time to think now. No issues in terms of the inbox going crazy. And I thought, right, I'm going to write a book. But I knew that if I didn't have accountability, then I probably wouldn't get it done. So I went on LinkedIn and I searched for a book coach. And lo and behold, I found a book coach. I found someone who'd written a book about how to write business books, and she helps others. So I reached out, booked a meeting, first week of January, engaged her, got her on board, and started the process. And it was that accountability that really helped me to get it through.
How long did it take you to write a book?
Well, I told her I'll do it in 6 months. She's like, most people take at least 12. I'll do it in 6. It took me way longer. It took me 15 months in the end to get it done. Yeah. They say writing a book is one of the harder things that you will do, and I would definitely agree. It's like the novelty at the beginning is great, but then soon, everything else takes over and it just becomes a real drain, and just getting to the finish line is hard work.
Reza, thank you very much. It's a brilliant episode.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Reza.
No problem. You're welcome.